Oh man, so I just started messing with Arduinos, or really just this one kit that I found the other day that I thought was a pretty good deal. But I got one of these elegoo super starter kits for the Arduino. So what it includes, for the longest time I've been hearing about, Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, all that good stuff, and I've never messed with them. And it just kind of felt like it was more of a learning tool for coders than anything. And someone like me, I felt like it just wasn't really going to be very useful. But I think it will be, and I'm trying to learn it now, and I feel like there's liable to be some handy uses for this guy. My first impression was, you've got this board here, which is a multi-function board essentially. It's got all these different outputs, but most of the projects I see people using are just one-offs. You're switching something on with a relay, or you're controlling a motor, you're doing this and that, and that's all good and well, but I'm struggling to try to understand the real functionality of this. I mean, aside from using this as a brain box for like a robot or something, something that's got multiple functionality, I don't know. I just don't really know. Like for example, say I wanted to use a remote control to control a servo or turn on a relay or something like that. I don't know. I just feel like there's so many ready-made boards from other things that you could recycle for much cheaper for a one-off like that. If I'm just needing to move a servo back and forth, I don't need any coding involved. Then I'm probably just going to get one from a $10 remote control car that's got the RF remote on it, and it's already got all the circuitry necessary to articulate that servo. But if I need it to be coded to take very specific steps, and I need everything to be mapped out properly, then I guess that would be the benefit of this. But I'll tell you, it's if you're not familiar with coding or anything, it can be a bitch. When I first started messing with this thing, it was more or less, trying to figure out what the hell I'm looking at. Over time, started to figure it out. But as you can see right here, this is sort of the first basic setup that I started working with. When I first got this, the basic plan was to just go through lessons, learn what I could, do every single thing individually, and get to the point where I could start combining things. And the first night I started playing with this, I was super tired and I stayed up super late, and I'm just copying and editing code here or there, trying to get things to work, and I managed to get the stepper on an output, a relay, and all run through the IR remote. And I had this servo on there too. But I got to the point where when I was trying to get the servo to articulate any way I wanted it to according to button presses, for whatever reason, this thing was not working anymore after that code I uploaded. And I had to strip it and start all the way over. And at first I was assuming maybe I had damaged a pin or something, but essentially what would happen was I would try to control my servo here with button presses, or my stepper, and it would just keep going. And it was caught in a loop. I'm not sure what was going on, but started all over. It seems to be working fine now. So like this little setup right here, I've just mapped out all my buttons already, decoded to see what was what. And I'm just going in the code here. So this was the code for the controlling the stepper with the remote. So I essentially just went in there and I combined some of this relay code as well. And when I first was doing this, I threw everything in here, and then I went through an editing process to see what I could simplify and change and customize. So you can see basically here is just a simple, buttons I'm pressing and what they do. All these control the stepper motor. So essentially I've just got a finer and a coarse movement here. And the way I had it before, my on and off button was turning the relay on and off with the same button. For whatever reason, I was unable to replicate that. I could not find what code I was using. I don't know what I was doing. So I just had to do this, where to control the motor again, just the up button is spinning it, and then the down button is turning it off. And this is a bootleg way to do it, but I really don't know what I'm doing yet, so this is just basically how I had to do that. But essentially, I'm just pulling pieces of code from other sketches, and I'm just trying to figure out what's what step by step. So I mean, you can see essentially that's what I've got. I've got my stepper, and I've got my relay controls all in here. So with this remote, let's see, cut it on. And by the way, running it from the power module, and that's actually being powered 9 volts through my variable DC supply. So the power module is what's powering everything, and it's also powering the board. So I've got all of my digital pins over here. You can see I've just got my IR hooked up as well. So essentially, I can control the stepper. Oops, I got to aim it at I can control the stepper, by taking incremental steps, forward or backward, or I can have more of a sweeping adjustment. And one of the things I'm trying to figure out is, the button press. How do I make this continually go as long as I'm holding the button and stop when I let it go? That's something I have yet to determine. Likewise over here with the relay, I've got it set up to cut the relay on with the up button, and it's just cutting the relay off with the down button. So I'm just enabling the pin, disabling the pin. And before I was using pin 13, and for whatever reason now it doesn't seem to want to work like it was before. But at any rate, that was another issue I had, whereas before I had some specific code where I could press the on button and it would engage the relay. Then I could press the on button again and it will disengage the relay. So for whatever reason I can't figure out how to replicate that. So I'm dealing with the on off with separate buttons, so I have different defined keys here. And this is just a simple setup. This didn't come with the relay module like all the other examples and videos I've seen. I haven't really figured a way to figure out how to use just the relay. They all come with these boards you just throw jumpers on. So you have to use the relay with this chip right here. But essentially, really all you need to know is this 9-volt battery is the external source for this motor here. So essentially I've just got my output relay pin right here, and I've got that middle pin over here. So that's the positive for my power source, and over here on the output going through the motor is the negative. So motor, when switched, is not being powered by the board anywhere. It's all external. So essentially now with that setup, I can basically run a device with an external power source using the Arduino to trigger it. Now, having said all that, like I say, it almost seems to be like a waste to me to have such a multifunctional board like this that you're just going to use as a one-off. For me to use this just to switch a relay on and off, it seems a little ridiculous, but that's what it is. And I'm still trying to figure out what are the other uses. But man, if anybody else out there is really into this stuff, I'd love to see what I can learn from them. There are quite a few things you could possibly do. You could control this thing to draw your curtains open and closed. You give it a measurement of how many revolutions it needs to turn. You code it in there, and you hit a button, and it's going to draw your curtains up till they're all the way open. You hit another button, it'll pull them closed. This is something that you're not going to be able to do easily with some simple bootleg setup, because you need coding involved. Otherwise, you're going to be resulting in a whole lot of other ingenious / creative ways of getting a mechanical on-off to happen, as opposed to the digital signal causing it to happen. But yeah, these elegoo kits, they're not bad. It's actually pretty good quality. I'm satisfied with the boards here. give you some decent little jumpers. It's not complete trash, a bunch of resistors. So yeah,